Hello and welcome to another episode of New World Comics Podcast. I am Buck Berlin, owner-operator of this fine establishment.
Since when?
Since 2006.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I worked here before that, but owned it, operated since...
And when was this a fine establishment?
82, 83.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make this establishment great again. That's our motto here.
I did. I hired Tom.
Yay, Tom.
But,
you can see a picture of Tom?
Yeah, you can see a picture of Tom right here. Yeah, Brad likes to edit these things. Take that, editing.
I knew this one, you're just warming me up.
Yeah. Speaking of Brad, voice of God, Brad Reed from Nerdstrom fame.
Blessings.
And I mean, unless things go really wrong for him, he'll be famous for other things. But yeah, Nerdstrom, it's the weekly podcast that we do up here at the store. Him, Cameo, me most of the time. Yeah, we talk about nerdy stuff, things that we typically don't talk about here on this podcast. All the newest movies, music, anything nerdy. Yeah. So
we like to talk nerdy.
Yeah.
White and nerdy.
Various nerdies. Yeah. So you can find them pretty much everywhere you find the New World Comics Podcast.
That's true.
Spreaker. Stitcher,
yeah,
not Streaker.
No,
yep, Streaker. You well, I mean, unless some Streaker's running around and has that written on their.
Have you ever got that right?
Yeah, yes.
Today.
Yeah, today. Yeah, we're on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
Am I missing one?
Did we said iTunes, Spotify? Yeah, we're good.
Oh,
yeah.
And soon to be SoundCloud.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. See, check
Google
that out.
Play. I think we're on Google Play too.
Yeah. What's up, girl? You got some Google Play?
Ooh,
girl. Special shout out to those listeners at Paycom because it turns out we have a whole bunch of listeners there. Like,
hey,
yeah, a whole bunch of listeners.
Get back to work.
Well, yeah, that too. No, listen while you work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joining with us this week is Josh Flowers. You may remember him from the episode, which you can see right here. Because, we can throw in clips for the YouTube thing. But if you're not, then I just said here. And you're like, what's going on? Buck's crazy. Yeah.
But you knew that already.
Yeah. So, Josh, you help out here at the store with polls and recommending stuff on big event days and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And you like your back issues almost as much as I do.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I figured we'll take a break from the spotlights on the people of the store this week.
All right.
And we'll do back issues and trade paperbacks.
Very good.
Because there's one thing to follow, like what's new, what's hot, what's going on, but all of the cool stuff has been built on such greatness that's come before it, and that gets kind of lost and forgotten about from time to time. Like there are a lot of people that don't like I hear that's good, but I'm just following with the current stuff. I'm reading Flash, waiting for Flash to get good again or whatever. And it's why are you wasting your time doing that? Go find the good stuff. You know?
I know if you're new to comics, this is kind of overwhelming when you first step into a shop because it's like, whoa, there's really everything here, and where do I possibly start?
Right, and these are all the best places because you don't have to start at the beginning always. You can jump in and have a really good story, get to know those characters. Sometimes these stories are 4 or 5 pages, and they have more meaning to them than hundreds of other issues.
Yeah. And a lot of the best issues are those little transition issues from one story arc to the other, where you get some really good stuff where they don't have to really pay too much attention to narrative or continuity, and they can just jump in and it's like, hey, let's just do a great little team up here between Spidey and Iron Man.
Yeah, or it'll be the thing that ties in all the other continuity, and it does you know how all that seemed like it didn't make sense? Now here's 8 pages of where we make everything make sense.
A light bulb.
Yeah. So I suppose we should just jump right into it.
Both feet.
Yep. So I'm going to talk about my absolute favorite Batman story of all time.
Cacophony?
I will murder no, Kevin Smith, as great as he is, whiffed real hard on that one.
Yeah, swing and a miss.
Yeah, but Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, starting on issue 16, is Batman Venom.
Ah, you get that Bane juice.
Yeah. So this predates Bane.
Okay.
Batman's, out working a case, and then an explosion happens, and some people and rubble go flying into Gotham River.
Yep.
Batman goes and saves everyone. Notices as he's coming up that there's a little girl that's trapped by a boulder. Batman swims over, and they're both submerged, and he's there, and he's trying to lift the boulder, trying to get it off of her, and he can't. The girl dies.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and Batman doesn't take that well.
No.
Because at this point in his career, he has been able to overcome every obstacle. He's, he's ready for everything except this.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, everything's exhumed, and he finds out how much that boulder weighed. So he starts working out more. He starts pushing himself. He keeps getting to that limit. Like he knows that he should be able to lift that, but can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just no physical way that he is able to lift that amount. So he
cheats a little.
He starts looking into alternatives, and he goes and gets on this new stuff called Venom. And wouldn't you know it, he can lift that boulder and then some. And then he's doing more in one night than he has. But he's getting sloppier. He's getting mean. He's having these violent outbursts.
The side effects kick in.
Uh-oh. And
everything has its price.
So it went from a story of Batman not being good enough to Batman needing to kick addiction.
That's fun.
Oh, my God. And it's so awesome. It's so well done on just seeing everything that Batman has to go through, and Alfred, and all that would happen with someone who's that in charge of their life losing control and regaining it. It's so good. Yeah. So as good as any current Batman stuff is, these 6 issues honestly are the best you're going to find.
Very good. Well, I'm going to start off with a book that's really one of the best that Marvel's putting out right now.
Okay.
It's the Immortal Hulk. And they're kind of bringing Hulk back to its monster roots. It has kind of a horror flair to it.
Yeah, because he started off more of a horror character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Al Ewing really kind of pulled from those first 6 issues. He's got a great story in the back of the trade where he talks about having a trade paperback in his school library that he would kind of sneak out during reading time and read those first 6 issues that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did back in the day. And the tagline, "Is he man or monster or both?"
Yeah.
Was really something that he put into this book, kind of overlay it.
Yes.
Is that it's just Bruce Banner constantly asking himself, is this me? Am I a bad person? Is this really who I am? And it's kind of playing with the Jungian psychology a little bit, with the kind of the shadow archetype, where it's that dark, ancient, primal thing that's hidden deep in your subconscious that you kind of try to separate yourself from, but it's really a part of you.
Right.
And it's Bruce struggling with that while he's just wandering aimlessly like he has in the past, and trying his best to do right where he goes, but always ends up just hurting people severely in the process, and is just still the monster.
Yeah.
To everyone that surrounds him, and just really having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
But man, it's a compelling book. It's one of those, it's that existential angst that makes Hulk from a gigantic rage monster to really a compelling character.
Yes.
That in the hands of the right writer, man, Hulk gets good. He gets really good.
Yeah, and that's one of those that a lot of people are, just think of Hulk and think, why would I read a Hulk book?
Yeah.
Oh, he shows up, he smashes things. Mm-hmm. They're smashed. Good.
Yeah.
No, there's so much more going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because, you think back to the hundreds and hundreds of Hulk issues, and they've kind of said most of everything that needs to be said about a big guy that turns mad, smashes. Mm-hmm. But no, he's found a way to change that up again.
Yep. Make it new and interesting while still staying true to who Hulk and Bruce Banner is.
Right. And at any moment this can be undone, and it's still going to be compelling with him having to deal with all of the after effects just from what's gone on so far.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for Trade 2 to come out. I am 100% totally on board with this book.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm going to switch into a 90s classic.
Oh.
So, yeah, when the X-Men books split off because they had like 60 mutants, which at the time everyone was like, oh my God, 60 mutants? Who needs that many? Yeah, they were like, let's break them up into all these other teams. So they threw an XFactor.
Ah.
Yeah, because XFactor originally was the original 5 X-Men that had split off and done their own thing. And then Cyclops' brother Havoc, gets thrown into the government, X-Men team.
The great Peter David.
And yeah, Peter David wrote this, and Larry Stroman, who's a fashion designer and comic fan, ended up drawing it. So it's very stylized. It's the art isn't necessarily for everyone, but if you can get past that, it's absolutely some of the most fun comic books you'll ever read.
Yeah.
Because 90s X-Men was pretty heavy on angst.
Oh yeah.
On the violent stuff. This first issue, Jamie Madrox is pulling a prank with this electromagnetic jar. They marked Mayo.
Okay.
So like strong guy, like the strongest guy on the team, can't open it. Polaris with her magnetic powers can't open it. And then Val Cooper, like the team's government liaison at the end, is just like, here you go. Yeah, he's just messing with them. Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, and in this run, you get some insight in like Quicksilver and him dealing with super speed, and you find out why he's a jerk all the time.
I was going to say that was in that run, wasn't it?
That's in this run where he explains living with super speed, not able to turn it off like some people. It's like standing behind someone at the in line at the ATM, and the person in front of you doesn't know what they're doing at all.
Just constant irritation.
Yeah, he's just like, oh my God, can you please just do this?
So we can get on with our lives.
Yeah. So, and it's that. You find out the backstory of the strong guy, why he's so big and deformed. Like he's, Hulk up top, and then, from the waist down, he's like a normal dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's just all these really tragic things that are happening to these people that, despite all that, they're pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes for quite a while being that good.
I remember you sent that issue with me to the Amazing Con in Oklahoma City to go have Peter David write something snarky to you.
Yeah, anytime that I'm not able to get something signed by someone, I say, have them insult me.
Lovingly insult.
Yeah, or just whatever. Say the worst thing you want to about me.
Go to hell, Buck.
Yeah. I think the Kevin Conroy picture that I have that Brad Cage got for me.
Yeah.
It was go to hell, Buck. Yeah.
Best wishes.
Yeah. But yeah, Peter David wouldn't do it.
Yeah, he was in his very old New York. A lot of people had asked me to do that, man. I'm just not going to do it. It's going to end up on the internet and people be mad at me. I'm just not going to do that. Can I just write best wishes? Like, you know what? Do as you like, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, so I ended up going up there the next day and I met him.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, thank you so much for signing that. I was the guy who was like, oh, well, here, let me tell you the story on why I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I asked him some other stuff, and man, that con was such a bust for him that he had already broken out the laptop and was working and was like in work mode.
Yeah.
So like I could tell that I was being the annoying fan. That, I was like, sorry, man.
Because when I met him on Saturday morning, he was like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go.
That weekend killed him. Like he died a little inside. I know he did.
They had so many cool people there, though.
They really did, and it was just such a fly-by-night con of hey, we're gonna bring all the stuff and not know what to do with it here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So
probably one of my favorite things from that con before we move on over to the next one was Rob Liefeld did a panel.
Yeah.
And that was the highest attended panel that I was at. All the seats were filled. And he goes through his song and dance, and there was a kid and his father sitting in front of me, and he asked Rob kind of a prickly question. He said, Mr. Liefeld, Wade Wilson sounds a lot like Slade Wilson. And Rob Liefeld just launched into like a 15, 20-minute tirade about how Deadpool is absolutely nothing like Deathstroke at all. I just kind of leaned over and was like, "You're my hero, kid. That's great." And his dad just kind of looked back and said, "It's good, isn't it?"
Yeah, so, man, on the record, Rob has said exactly the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Youngblood was his, he was working on Teen Titans reboot.
Yeah.
For years, and then, like, when that fell through, he used a lot of the characters, in that, in other things. Mm-hmm. Deadpool being one of them. Like, that was going to be Deathstroke's new costume at one point.
Huh.
Yeah, but if you look on the back, the character card of the first Deadpool toy, it talks about like what a silent killer he is,
right?
And how he lets people go to like tell him what a crazy silent killer this guy is. I bet you if we're nice enough to Brad, he'll pop up that thing right here, because we're gonna have to go track it down after this. I did have it over there, but I may have sold it. But anyway.
But yeah, Deadpool really kicks in when Ed McGuinness and Joe Kelly get on the book.
Yeah, like Mark Waid started with the like, oh, he's kind of a funny guy, and then the Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness stuff. That's where it becomes the Deadpool that everyone loves.
Yes.
Rob Liefeld didn't have any part of that.
Right, it just gets wackier from there.
Yeah.
But something that is decidedly unwacky.
Yes.
Staying with the Hulk, we're going to do a little bit of classic current here.
That's a nice segue.
And this is actually not a single issue. This is a little two-story part. It's Hulk issue 24 and 25. This is the Paul Jenkins, John Romita Jr. run.
Yeah.
And when people think of the Abomination, most general people think it's just, here's another gigantic green rage beast that's going to fight the Hulk.
If they even know who Abomination
is. If they
is.
even know who that is.
They haven't used him in years.
I mean, isn't that still technically the first MCU movie, the Ed Norton Hulk? Don't they count that one?
That one's supposed to take place during Iron Man 2.
Okay.
Yep.
And they kind of see Emil Blonsky, who was Tim Roth, and he's just kind of an oily military guy.
Yeah, and then they make him look like, I don't know, roided out flea.
Yeah, he looked really, really bad. But in the comics, Emil Blonsky is a Russian spy that comes over to the United States to steal the gamma technology and ends up getting blasted in the process and becomes a Hulk after a fashion himself. And he goes through kind of the same existential angst that the Hulk goes through, like, I'm this terrible monster, and I cannot ever go back to the life that I had. I lost my wife forever. And he just sinks into this bitter hatred of Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And eventually, during this timeline, poisons Betty and kills her.
Yes.
And this is also during the time when the Hulk had kind of a split between a couple of personalities. He was Mr. Fix-It. He was the professor.
Yeah, they weren't quite sure what direction to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the issue starts out with the Hulk writing a letter to Betty about how she reminds him of his mother and her kind face, how she could always put him at ease, and he was just totally relaxed and just really loved her, like would wake up in the middle of the night just to make sure that she was still there. And when she was gone, it just absolutely crushes him.
Yeah.
And Blonsky's kind of going through that same thing at the same time. And midway through the issue, Thunderbolt Ross comes to Hulk and says, hey, I need you to do this thing for me. We know where Abomination is. And Bruce isn't having, like, no, I put that in the past. I've moved on beyond that. I've forgiven him, even though it was the professor that forgave him. Yeah. He said, let me show you this. And it's Betty lying in like a stasis mode in this chamber where she's technically dead, but she's still being kept alive. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Banner had really never forgiven Emil for what happened to Betty, and he just loses his mind and he goes after Abomination. And the next issue is just like some of the best action illustration that John Romita Jr. has ever done. It's just like an epic blood feud fight where they just two people that absolutely hate each other, that want to crush each other just into the ground. And the ending, when they finally capture I know this is a bit of a spoiler, but this is like where they really wrap it up.
Yeah.
They have Abomination, and he's in prison. And Bruce comes there at the end, and he says his last goodbye to Emil. And Emil's like, I've done everything. I hurt the Hulk. There's absolutely nothing that you can do that can make my existence here terrible. I'm going to go to my grave knowing that I hurt you like no one else had ever done. So he has a clip of Emil with his life the last time before he left for that mission. And he puts it on loop, the last few words that Emil said to his wife. And Blonsky just loses, like, you can't leave me like this. And Bruce just says, I hope you choke on it, and walks out. I'm like, man. It's like, dude, like Bruce.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's savage.
It's savage AF.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
As the kids say.
Yeah.
No, anytime someone comes in and says, I want the best Hulk fight.
Yeah.
What's the best Hulk fight? Yeah. Incredible Hulk 25 from that series is absolutely the best Hulk fight in all of Hulk comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And John Romita Jr. Will make a very nice still image every now and then. I don't think he's that great of a storyteller.
Yeah.
He's not that great of a graphic draftsman. But this one,
yeah,
he put his all into that.
And the first couple of issues of Punisher Warzone.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, Blood in the Water, issues 1 and 2. Yeah, I was going to say those for the next time we do this.
Okay, we can do that next time.
Yeah,
Teaser.
Which, I mean, speaking of John Romita Jr. doing some great Punisher stuff. So this Dark Reign, the list business, doesn't get the most love.
No.
Because everyone's like, oh, Punisher would never die like that. Punisher would never. So in this issue, in continuity, Punisher dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not pretty.
No.
So the three things that Franken Castle really needs is skill, luck, and time to plan.
Yep.
Frank's got one of those going for him in this. Yeah. Norman Osborn, had just risen to power, and he said, okay, here are the people that are going to get in my way.
Yep.
These are the people that will probably stop me. I need them gone. And it was Scar, because, Banner wasn't around at the time.
Right.
It was, Scar being Hulk.
Yep.
Wolverine, Daredevil, I think Spider-Man, and Punisher.
Yep.
I think it was those. Or one of them may have been Hawkeye. I forget.
Yeah.
But the one that stuck out most was Punisher, just because it was the man. You wouldn't really think, Norman Osborn better watch out for Punisher.
Yeah, a street level guy like that.
But yeah, street level guy like that is the guy who was going to go taxi driver on him and go find him.
Yeah.
So,
one of the better Dakin issues too.
Yeah, Norman Osborn hired Dakin to kill him, and Punisher just wasn't ready for it. Punisher was out on a mission that he had been working on and was going to go do his thing, and then Dakin shows up, and it threw off any kind of plan he had, and he just wasn't having the luck. Like any of the shots he was taking were missing or didn't really affect him, and then Dakin cuts off one of his arms.
Yep.
And then his leg. And then chops him up into pieces and throws him off a building.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was oh my God, Punisher died. They just killed Punisher in this. And it's one of those that, you always want your hero to have like the glorified hero death.
Yeah.
But that can't always happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs to be a boring death like, oh, he led a good life. He died in his sleep. or comfortably in a hospital bed. Whatever.
No, that was just bloody and savage.
This is exactly how I think Punisher would go out. It's not the street level guys that are going to get you. It's one of the superheroes. It's you're going to upset someone, and then some punk's going to get really, really lucky. Wolverine's son, who's at the time like he had no cred, so he just shows up, kills Punisher.
Yep,
and it's Dickon was having the luckiest day of his life, and man, did it pay off for him.
But the Punisher didn't die.
Well, he did.
Technically.
He was. I'm just saying, if you're if you are pieces like that, those are pieces. That's a torso.
And now to the crime scene photos.
Yeah, there's his head.
What was left of it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, look.
Norman looking very pleased.
Yeah. So, dead Punisher got thrown off a roof and then collected by moloids.
Which leads us into Franken Castle.
Yeah. So
the Legion of Monsters find the remains of Frank Castle and they reanimate him as Franken Castle because they need someone who's a master tactician to help them in a war against a guy named Robert Hellsguard, who's sworn to wipe out all monsters from the face of the planet. He was a monster fighter like back in the mid-1800s with Ulysses Bloodstone, who had the original Bloodstone.
Right.
And the Legion of Monsters currently has possession of the Bloodstone, and Hellsguard is not only going to wipe them out, he's coming to get it.
Yeah.
And man, this is like what if Mike Mignola wrote The Punisher.
Yeah.
It has that same sort of feel to it. Hellsguard is in this like weird armored, what would you call it? Almost like a steampunk style armored suit.
Yeah.
And he has this team of Japanese monster-hating zealot samurais that fight along with him.
Yeah.
And it's just so wild and crazy and weird, but it works.
So over the top.
Yeah.
And so when a major character like Punisher dies, fan outcry is going to be so great that they're going to have to bring him back.
Yeah.
Using all of the tools at their disposal and everything that's been established in the Marvel continuity, they pick and choose every perfect thing that if you were to bring someone back without just Doctor Strange snapping his fingers and magicking you back, this is the way. Because he starts off just kind of a mindless dummy who can shoot really well.
Yeah.
And then as each issue goes by, he's more and more frank.
He gradually gets his mind back.
Yeah, his mind gets back, his body heals, everything comes back together.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, he's better than he was in the issue that he died.
Yeah. The friction between him and Jack Russell is just great.
Which, so I love the good play on word real names. Like Mr. Miracle's Scott Free, the escape artist, is absolutely my favorite. But Werewolf by Night's real name, Jack Russell.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it was so like who was the father that came up with that? That is like the daddiest of dad jokes.
Yeah. Expecting to be like a little Pomeranian with a little poofy tail, and a little heart collar.
But that run of Punisher is just so looked down upon because it goes where Punisher really doesn't go, but very, very effectively fits because he he himself is a horror character.
Yeah.
Just without all the trappings of mysticism.
Yeah.
And here it is, fully embracing that.
Yeah, and towards the end of the run, when Elsa Bloodstone is after him to get the Bloodstone, like I would have loved to have seen a story arc with her chasing Frank across Europe and them just fighting like through the ruins of Rome or through like a lofty French church.
I mean, it would have made sense for him to go over to Italy, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
He loves spaghetti. Hates the mafia.
But man, this was a really, really fun, just out of the blue run of Punisher that was, man.
Yeah,
just a great little bit. Should get a lot more love than it does.
Yeah, because we absolutely weren't expecting it when this came out and they were like, and Franken Castle, everyone had the same reaction of that's dumb. And when it came out, it was that's great. All right, I'm on board.
And I remember telling George, this has the Legion of Monsters in it, because he's like, Franken Castle, it's not really interesting. Like, no, they reanimate him as Frankenstein. What?
Yeah, I was like, Amphibians in it. He was like, I'm in.
Yep.
Let's do it.
I'll take one, please.
Oh, man. So I guess in shifting gear, you have the best transitions here.
Yeah.
I'm being a really bad host with no transitions.
Like normal.
So my next pick is an issue that actually came with the X-Men the board game, which is the variant to that is pretty rare and sought after and kind of expensive right now. But it was such a good issue. Uncanny X-Men number 303 tells the story of everyone dealing with the death of Illyana, Colossus's sister. Oh, so they kind of have to play with the timeline a little because Jubilee's there.
Yeah.
And Illyana's sick, and she had been in the New Mutants and done all that, and was sick and still very, very young because something happened. But Kitty Pryde was a little bit older, and Illyana and Kitty Pryde were like the original young X-Men to the team. You're essentially the sidekick to the team, and Jubilee was the replacement to that. And it's her kind of understanding that there is a mortality to this. I feel really bad not knowing this person who essentially was me.
Yeah,
and learning to love this person in her final moments. She's Jubilee's just this punk teenager that's like, I blast big robots with my mutant powers.
My sparkly powers.
Yeah. And she realizes, there's more to all this. There's caring about these people.
Yeah.
And she bonds with Illyana right as she dies.
Ooh. That's pretty heavy for a board game extra.
Oh my God, it really was. And Kitty Pryde just loses it because, Illyana is her best friend.
Yeah.
And there's just such a strong panel at the very end of Jubilee being held by Jean Grey and both of them just sobbing. And it's just and then a couple pages later, the other X-Men were on a cleanup mission, which you read in the issue before. They all come back, and Colossus missed it, and he loses it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he doesn't handle it well.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and that's how the issue ends. He blames Professor X for her death, and
Oh.
Yeah. It gets you and they get you.
All right, guys. Now let's play Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, yeah. But if you're reading only one X title this month, this issue must be it. That's not lying. Yeah, Scott Lobdell. He's not always the greatest of writers, but this one, he pulled out all the stops. Oh, it's so good.
Man.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite X-Men issues of all time. So,
on a decidedly less down note,
yeah.
I am a Darth Vader dork.
Oh, yeah?
I have...
You ever dress up like him?
From time to time here at Superhero School. Every 2 weeks, Saturday starts at 10:30.
Thanks for the plug.
Of course. Always. I had The Empire Strikes Back on VHS when I was like 7, 8 and just watched it on repeat all the time.
I really hope you had a VCR because that'd be just really sad.
I just looked at it. It's like, I bet there's a great movie in here, but that's a really dope cover. So I could just make up the story as I go along.
All right. What's your comics?
Anyway, so when Marvel got Star Wars, obviously they were going to bring the funny books back.
Yeah.
And they did a main Star Wars run with Jason Aaron and John Cassidy.
Yeah, man, Jason Aaron is absolutely one of the best writers.
Indeed. He has Conan now. Oh my God, he's got Conan.
But yeah, we'll actually be talking about that on the Nerdstrom probably this week. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
And while the Star Wars book has some really, really fun stuff in it, I got to go for my boy, Darth. Written by Kieron Gillen and Salvador LaRocca.
Yeah.
Now, this follows Vader right after the failure of the Death Star being destroyed.
Yeah, this is right after A New Hope.
Yes.
So this one that you actually haven't read yet, the Star Wars book that happens, it's essentially the missing movie between A New Hope and Empire. Mm-hmm. And it's them going on all these other missions trying to do everything they can to mess with Darth. And this one that you're talking about is like, you'll see Darth at a thing where he's like fighting, fighting the team in an AT-AT.
Yeah.
And in his book, you see his side of things.
Right.
Like, you see, like, his motivations, his thoughts on, like, oh, they're in that? Well, I'm going to hit that right there. And then in the Star Wars book, oh, yeah, they get hit right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Vader flies back to the Emperor and has fallen out of favor hard.
Yeah.
And the Emperor is really looking down upon Vader and like giving him these sorts of menial tasks that should really be below his status within the Empire.
Right.
And there's another guy in the Emperor's chambers that the Emperor doesn't even reveal who he is to. It's like, that's not your concern. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, you as a Sith Lord presume to give me commands? You should know your place, Lord Vader. So it's Darth trying to figure out what the Emperor's doing behind his back while he's simultaneously trying to regain that favor. And he enlists the help of a weapons salvage expert named Dr. Aphra, who's probably the best addition to the Star Wars universe since they've rebooted these comics.
Yeah.
And she has a couple of companions that are just the best. It's a 000 and BT-1, which is basically evil C-3PO and evil R2-D2.
Yeah, which the evil C-3PO is probably one of the best new characters in all of comics.
Yeah.
It's crushing that he won't be in anything.
I know.
Yeah.
Schooled in linguistics and torture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like evil R2 just goes around and just burns everybody with the flamethrower.
Yeah. He didn't do cute, he's flying. No, he's burning everyone.
No, he's killing everybody.
Well, and the cool thing about Dr. Aphra is it's the personality of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. It's
like,
really girl Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And down to the like, all right, split decision time. Do I do this? Oh, let's run away from the really big thing.
Yeah.
Here it is coming to crush me.
And most of the series, it's just her trying to fulfill these tasks that Darth has assigned her and try not to get killed by Vader when she reports in.
Right.
It's like, I hope the information I'm giving him isn't going to result in my immediate death.
Yeah.
And, man, Kieron Gillen just has a great hold of Vader in this. You feel his arrogance, but also his power at the same time.
Right.
And, man, the LaRocca art, even though it feels a bit stiff in places, is just glorious to look at.
Yes, and I mean, you see a lot of these things, and they look like cash grabs.
Yeah.
And now there are those Star Wars titles that are cash grabs. Like, hey, here's Han Solo as an Imperial cadet.
Yeah.
Here's the Lando Calrissian miniseries
that you begged for, that you demanded.
And then the flip side is you have some that are some of the most brilliant stories that you've seen.
Yeah.
The C-3PO special where it explains his red arm from Force Awakens, where he runs into the robot that has the arm. Mm-hmm. It's an evil robot, and they're trapped together and they have to work together to get out of the situation. Mm-hmm. And he explains to him that. Just because you're a good robot doesn't mean that you've always been a good robot. Our memories can be wiped, and just because you're you and I'm me doesn't mean that tomorrow that we won't be the same guy. Yeah, and his mind is blown.
Yeah.
So he goes against.
Dear.
Yeah, so he kind of goes against what he was going to do and tries to save this guy, and then the thing that's after him gets him, and then in honor of his memory, like see-through had just lost an arm. He took his arm and.
That's pretty cool,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's little things like that, and then these two books that you pulled out, they feel like an actual missing movie.
Yeah.
Like any Star Wars fan needs to read these.
Yep.
Like it kills me that I can't get Tom to read them just cause, cause he's such a purist, whatever.
Yeah.
But these are as valid as anything that's been on screen.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I'd say more valid than most things that have been on screen.
I mean, I would rather have this than the previous two movies.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Shadow of an Empire?
Shadow of an Empire.
All right.
I love that game. Man, that was a fun N64 game.
If you're into that kind of thing. No, I'm having my fun.
How dare you?
Well, I'm going to have my fun over here with Justice League number 5.
That's better.
It's a better segue. Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah. So, throwing things back into the back issue game here. Grant Morrison's JLA series.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's so good. It essentially reestablishes the DC universe. Mm-hmm. It's the Big Seven getting the band back together, and they realize that they're not really cut out for everything the world or universe has to throw at them.
Yeah.
So they decide it's time to expand the ranks. So they say, "All right, everyone, bring in your buddies. Let's see who has what. Mm-hmm. Does anyone know anyone that might be able to help fill out?" So Flash was like, "Ooh, Max Mercury wouldn't be a bad choice because he's like one of the masters of the Speed Force and knows all. And like, man, he'd be such a great knowledge and addition to the team." Mm-hmm. He shows up and was like, "Guys, I don't really want to join the team. I just heard that this place was on the moon. Can I go take pictures over there?" Right? And there's all these really neat callbacks. Like Kyle Rayner invites Connor Hawke, who's Green Arrow's son, and Green Arrow at the time was dead. So he invites him, and like the next issue, he ends up saving the team again with arrows.
Yep,
it's really neat. But Superman invited Hitman because they had a moment in one of the issues of Hitman. Mm-hmm. So he shows up and he was like, "Guys, I just came up here to make use of my X-ray vision. Hi, Wonder Woman. I can die a happy man," and leaves. And it's just, everything is just failing. It's just so disastrous for these guys that like had just saved the world. And yeah, for the greatest heroes of all time. Yeah, everything's just going to hell for them. And then,
I bet it made Garth Ennis happy.
Well, probably. But and then this new character, Tomorrow Woman, shows up and is so perfect on the team that they don't really need to recruit anyone else because she's being so perfect. And then slowly but surely she figures out that she's a robot put together by the Yield Red Tornado team, Professor Ivo and Dr. T.O. Morrow. Yeah, and ends up sacrificing herself.
T.O.
Yeah, it's another one of those fun real names.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Dr. Tomorrow. Yeah, but no, it's just another one of those like really sad endings of like, oh, this character sacrificed herself for everyone, and at the end, Superman's at her funeral, and he's kind of the only guy that really remembers her.
Man.
Yeah. But
look at you, Garth Ennis, pulling on heartstrings.
No, it's Grant Morrison. Yeah, different Scotsman.
Yeah.
Man, how dare you?
You can understand Garth Ennis, though.
Depends on how much Guinness he's had. His words, not mine.
Grant Morrison comes with subtitles.
He did a commentary for the All-Star Superman DVD.
Oh, my God.
How
was that?
After a while, I had started figuring out what he was saying.
They got every third word?
Yeah, pretty much. All right, what else you got?
But staying with the Justice League, I would like to talk a little bit about the Jeff Johns Aquaman reboot in New 52.
Yeah.
Now, people always kind of thought of Aquaman as a little bit of a lame hero.
Well,
but in the most people.
Yeah.
But in the first issue, you get to see all the reasons why Aquaman is cool.
Yeah. The first half issue, even not even that. It so perfectly exemplifies everything why he's cool.
Yeah,
because like he jumps out of the ocean into the middle of the city, where like these bank robbers are fighting the cops.
Yep.
And he slams down and like stops the car with his trident and flings it at like forever away.
Yep.
And then some of the guys get out and start shooting Aquaman, and the bullets graze him and he bleeds just a little.
Yep.
But he's not really hurt because he's tough. He's a tough dude.
That's right.
And he takes him down. And then after the cops are making all their fun about Aquaman,
yep,
who just saved them.
Yep, pretty much.
He's just like, well, if you guys are done making fun of me, I'm gonna go eat. So he ends up at the diner and orders fish. And they're like, aren't they your friends? He says, no, fish are idiots. Don't you talk to them? I can tell them what to do.
Yeah.
I don't like, hey, Paul, how's it going? Yeah. So it's the perfect setup, setup to the series.
Yep.
And from there, like, every, comic reader then was like, okay, I see why we need to respect Aquaman.
And it debuted a new character, I guess, a cumulative character.
Yeah, species.
Yes, species.
Yeah.
Called the Trench, that were these deep water fish creatures.
They're horrific looking.
That were absolutely horrific looking. But one of the big reasons I wanted to talk about the Trench in particular was how well this was integrated into the Aquaman movie.
Right.
I had just got through seeing it this past weekend, and it's by far the best DCU movie that's been done. Jason Momoa is just the man. And they fit the Trench into one of the original Atlantean kingdoms from way back in the day that kind of diverged when Atlantis fell and all the peoples of the city dispersed into their own respective kingdoms.
Yeah.
And they're kind of the last obstacle that one of the last obstacles that Arthur has to go through in order to get the Trident of Atlan, so he can take on Ocean Master, which he reminds you of ad nauseum, ad infinitum, that he is the Ocean Master. Quiet, ominous words, Ocean Master, Ocean Master. But Jeff Johns was part of the story team that developed the movie, so a lot of the things that you saw, and it was like, oh, there's that, oh, and there's that thing.
Yeah.
Like when Tom Curry goes down to the dock every morning to wait on Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they threw that into the movie as a little plug to all the people that read the stuff.
Yeah. That and, this way Jeff Johns gets paid.
That's right.
Yep.
And maybe they can do a Green Lantern movie next. That's actually good.
Yeah, if he could have a little bit more say in what goes into this one.
As long as they get Mark Strong back for Sinestro, because, oh man, was he perfect.
I think that they could recast and probably go somewhere else with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, was there anything else you had on that, or can I go into my Green Lantern?
Of course.
All right, well, let's go into my Green Lantern. Speaking of Green Lanterns, so the entire series of Green Lantern Corps Quarterly is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Some issues are better than others because it's a different creative team each time. Yeah. And, of course, I don't have this one in front of me because every time it's in, I sell it. But Green Lantern Quarterly, issue 3, is one of my all-time favorite comic stories.
Is it Charlie Vickers?
Yeah, it's the Charlie Vickers. So each issue has a whatever happened to this Green Lantern, or whatever happened to this Green Lantern. Some of them it's the first appearance of a Green Lantern. Like this one's the first appearance of Jack T. Chance. He is the worst Green Lantern of all time. It's like giving a Green Lantern ring to Lobo. Like even the Guardians of the Universe are like, he's the best guy in that sector. That whole sector is just evil. Should have just killed them all, but whatever. Here you go. Here's a ring. Don't come to. But yeah, I digress. This issue 3. Charlie Vickers is an old Green Lantern character that in issue 54-55 of like the Silver Age comics, these aliens come to Earth looking to kill Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So they come down and they find this guy in a green suit with a big lantern on his chest and this green ring. Turns out it's the actor for the Green Lantern TV show. the actor named Charlie Vickers. Right? So they kidnap him, and they're talking to him about like all these things that they're going to do to him, and you know, Hal Jordan finds out about this is like, oh no, I got to go find some actor, right? So meanwhile, on the ship, while he's being kidnapped, and these aliens are just talking to him about all these things he's going to do to him, he ends up kicking all their asses.
How about that?
Beats the living hell out of all these aliens that are like, we're going to kill Green Lantern. And they're like, oh no. So by the end, you know, Hal Jordan shows up on the ship. It was like, hey, I'm here to rescue you. All right. I guess I don't need to rescue you, actor that looks just like me. Wow, that's weird. So he looks just like Hal Jordan, except he's got freckles. But the mask covers it, so it's not, you know, not a big deal. Yeah. Yep. So, you know, Hal's like, dude, you handled yourself so well. I think you need to be a Green Lantern. And back then, he could, like, have his rings split off other rings. Oh. And he could just give people Green Lantern rings.
And you get a ring, and you get a ring?
Pretty much. Like, he didn't do it often. But for Charlie Vickers, he was like, dude, you're great. The Corps needs you. Go to Oa and train. So he gives him a ring, and Charlie's like, all right, well, I mean, if I'm good enough, I guess I don't need to be an actor. Let's go to Oa. So he goes to Oa and trains and does all that stuff. And you don't really hear from him ever again. Like, you see him in the background of other, you know, times that, you know, you see the Green Lantern Corps. He's that guy with, like, the Gambit-looking head sock thing. You know, like, if you're going through other back issues, he's that human-looking Green Lantern.
He just needs to keep his ears warm.
Yeah.
It gets cold down in Nolans.
So you don't really hear from him ever again until the issue of Whatever Happened to Charlie Vickers. And it turns out that as he was training and doing all this stuff, they gave him his sector. He went off to go stop this civil war between these aliens on this planet. And during this, he got called back to Oa for the trial of Sinestro. He was like, we're having a trial for Sinestro, the guy that Sinister is in his name. I'm going to save lives here with this thing you gave me. Let me do that. You all have your thing.
Yep.
I'm going to save all these people. You know, if you pull me out of this, people will die. Like, oh, so you're going to disregard all that? Well, fine. We're going to take your power. So they take his power. Like, they take the power out of his ring. And, it phases him a little, but he does the, whatever, give me a stick. And he goes and beats up, like, he starts fighting the good fight. And after he saves this planet, the other half of the planet, and maintains peace, he's stuck there. Because the Green Lanterns forgot about it. They're like, whatever, you didn't care. Here you go. You made your bed, lie in it. Yeah. And it's just the story of like, man, hear the conviction of probably one of the most badass guys in the DC universe. And yeah. So.
Because Hal wanted to go off on his own and be a hero.
Yeah. So.
The thin green line, as it were.
Right. But yeah, so that's my love of Green Lantern. Like, it all really kind of stems out from there. So.
Speaking of fighting the good fight, kind of had a little Garth Ennis on the brain here today.
Right.
Is Punisher the Platoon. Now, from those who remember the Punisher Max series, it kicked off with Punisher Born.
Yes.
Which was Frank's last tour in Vietnam, which kind of really set the stage for his descent. His turn from being, the red-blooded American guy that just gets drafted to go over to Vietnam to a more darker, sinister person. And in Punisher Max, there's a guy that's writing a biography on Frank. And this is kind of a continuation of that story, where he goes back and talks to the people that were in Frank's very first platoon when he was a young company commander in Vietnam. And it follows those guys talking about how Frank was a very straight-edge, by-the-book, enthusiastic young lieutenant, and you can kind of see just the little phases of where Frank starts to love war.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want it to end because he's found that thing that just, I don't know, it speaks to him in a way that's real deep.
Yeah.
And he just latches on to it and wants to be that. And there's a great little pairing between him and a rival VC girl who's one of the commandos who really has a hard-on for taking Frank out. She's just really dead set on taking out the big man of the black rifles. And the guy also interviews her commander, who was the rival VC general that was commanding the North Vietnamese troops that Frank's regiment of Marines was fighting in that particular area at the time. And this book it's an illustration of two things that Garth Ennis does really well.
Yeah.
It's tell Punisher stories and tell war stories. Because Garth's battlefields, and they're going to reissue the Night Witches in a super deluxe fancy hardcover, and it deserves to. Mm-hmm. It's really, really fantastic book. And when this thing came out, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going back to that universe and we're going to see Frank in the Nam. And if you're a Punisher fan, man, you really should take a bite out of that.
I mean, anytime you see Garth Ennis' name on a Punisher book, that's
And the great Goran Parlov as well, who, if he illustrated Punisher now and forever, I'd be okay with it.
Well, I mean,
I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Even though the new not the new Punisher, but the Punisher War Machine,
yes,
which I heard was just so fun.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, same writer as now.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's Rosenberg.
It's a continuation on.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
So because the whole War Machine thing was like him getting the suit, him doing everything that he should do with the suit breaking because of course he's gonna drive it till the wheels fall off.
Push it too hard.
And this series is now. Oh, here's all the people you pissed off now that you had a suit. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Man, and those Greg Smallwood covers.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Liam Neeson has never looked more Punisher-y.
Well, I guess they moved away from Thomas Jane a little bit there.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got over there?
How's this? We probably don't have time for the rest of the... Why don't you pick two more out of that second? We'll see where we're sitting.
Okay. I know your love of Fantastic Four, so we'll do Secret Wars last.
Okay.
But one that was really unexpected for me was TMNT, The Secret History of the Foot Clan.
Yeah, who would have ever thought that Ninja Turtles could be cool and awesome?
Ninja Turtles were my thing as a kid.
Like everyone's thing.
Yeah, it was a phenomenon. Like from the late 80s to the early 90s, like all the kids were into Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And, they had the old Mirage comics, and they had the Fosco and the Carlson Ninja Turtles comics that were put out by Image. And I just kind of fell off of Ninja Turtles comics for a long, long time. And I know that IDW had got the license, and they had been producing Turtles books for a little while, but I'd never really taken a bite out of it. Mm-hmm. But you had the trade to this. And like The Secret History of the Foot Clan, it takes it back to feudal Japan and tells the Foot from the very beginning. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. All right, I'll take a bite out of it.
Yeah.
And it was so BA. Like, I want all the Turtles books now. I want them all.
Yeah.
Essentially what the story is, it starts out with a Japanese warlord named Tetsuo, who
he's trying to find Kaneda. Different story, sorry.
That's a sweet bike.
Oh.
I saw that way too young. It's like, what is going on in Japan?
Sorry, I digress.
But anyway, so there's this Japanese warlord who is one of the favored warlords of the current shogun, but kind of gradually falls out of favor with him at the time because he had ambitions of his own. And he sends a clan out to assassinate this guy, and he just runs through everybody but the last few. And the final assassin that puts a sword through his heart there was a witch that was with Tetsuo at the time that he had allied with, who placed a curse on the assassin that said, "You have taken the love of my life, and your firstborn son is going to be cursed with the soul of this evil man." And The assassin has 2 children. He has Oroko Saki and then another boy. And just throughout the whole part of this history, you see Saki kind of gradually moving in that direction. And the father is just putting it off. No, the prophecy can't be true. But Saki ends up usurping the Foot Clan and taking over. And Hamato Yoshi was one of the top ninjas in the clan that stood against Saki. And probably the coolest thing about this is in current New York with the turtles, and they go through the ooze where they become the humanoid turtles, is that you gradually find out over time that the turtles are the reincarnated sons of the original Hamato Yoshi from feudal Japan. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And Shredder is the actual resurrected Oroku Saki. So he's like a mystical being of power. And like, dude, you just made Turtles that much more awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, man, yes, I am reading all these.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
See, and I mean, I've dabbled in that, so I hadn't read that. That's really cool. I need to sit down and
yeah. The Waltz Eastman Turtles, the first 4 volumes of that are fantastic. And a cool thing that IDW does with the hardcovers is that it takes the main Turtles books and all the other little micro series and mini series and puts them all in sequential order.
Yeah.
So you don't have to kind of nickel and dime and, okay, read 1 through 2. Then I got to bounce to the Casey Jones. Then I read 5 through 6. But then I got to bounce to April. Like it's all in one big sequential order.
That's really, really nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, IDW. Good job on that one.
Man, well, mine isn't quite as deep and all that, but it's I promise you more moving.
Okay.
So I have kind of a rotating favorite Avengers series constantly. Like the top 3 for me are top 3 or 4 like are always, oh, that's my favorite. Wait, no, that one's my favorite. So we're gonna tackle 3 of the 4.
Okay.
Save one of the other ones for the next time we do this. My first number 1 favorite of all time storyline was Avengers Under Siege. Now, the Masters of Evil have been plotting and planning to overthrow the Avengers for a while. And Baron Zemo was like, all right, so I need to get my team right. I need to make sure that I have everyone in place. Man, I don't have enough muscle. Let's get Mr. Hyde, and let's get the Wrecking Crew. Let's get the entire Wrecking Crew on this.
I'm down for anything that has the Wrecking Crew in it.
So, yeah, the Avengers at the time are the, Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, the Wasp, Hercules, Namor, Black Knight, and Captain America.
Okay.
So they're okay. They're not like the most powerful, but they're still going around and taking care of business,
righting wrongs.
Yeah, but the Masters of Evil, the Wrecking Crew go and get Hercules really, really drunk and start poisoning him. Like they poison him to the point that he can't really.
Because of course they do.
Yeah. And while he's drunk and can't really do anything and poisoned, they beat the living hell out of him to the point where he's in a coma and he gets brain damage.
Man.
Yeah.
That's savage.
Isn't it?
Wow.
So then they beat the hell out of Jarvis. Like they torture Jarvis. And they make sure that all the Avengers can hear it. Right? And systematically they're taking down the Avengers one by one to the point where they finally get Cap and tie him up, and they find his old footlocker. And in it they find his original shield, which Mr. Hyde just crushes. And then they find a picture of his mom, the only picture of his mom, and Baron Zemo tears it in half and ruins it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And let's just say they're not called the Avengers for nothing.
Oh man.
So yeah, it's one hell of a comeback.
I don't think anybody can let that one slide.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, it's such a moving thing. And then at the end of everything, Captain America, like you just see Captain America, like though he's won, he's crying.
Yeah.
Like you just see him, over the torn picture of his mom represents so much other stuff that he lost and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, it's so moving, so perfect.
Man.
Yeah. So there's that. And then we have the Ultron imperative. So
slip a little Ultron in there.
Oh my God. Ultron is absolutely the most terrifying Avengers villain. When I heard that Avengers 2 was going to be Ultron, I lost my mind because it was how are they going to top this? In my mind, he's bigger, badder threat than Thanos ever thought about being. You know, right? Well, because he is there to destroy all humanity.
Yeah,
like he doesn't care. Robots, robots are where it's at. Mm-hmm. Humanity is nothing to him. So, in this, he builds himself. He rebuilds every version of himself that's ever been, and he found enough adamantium to do adamantium foiled skin. So they're all essentially unstoppable.
Oh,
yeah. And he goes to this country called Solarania, and he kills everyone in it, man, woman, child, and any animal, anything living, he kills. And then he sets aflame 2 eyes and a mouth. So on the map, you see his face from aerial view. You see Ultron's face, and that's him calling out the Avengers. Yeah. So then he kidnaps everyone who is part of his family, which is Hank Pym, the Wasp, the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Wonder Man, Grim Reaper. Like anyone who's been part of the Ultron experience.
Yeah. The creative process.
The creative process of Ultron.
Yeah.
So they all show up, and then in a previous story, Justice had broken his leg, so he was sidelined and was like, oh my God, the Avengers need me. And they're like, what we need best is someone watching over the mansion.
Yeah.
It was like, screw you, I'm going to go read up on Ultron. So he starts doing all of his homework and gets, vibranium can disrupt metal, because it wasn't the wonder thing that it is now in the movies.
Right.
It was the anti-metal, Like anytime that you had your vibranium, it would, destroy whatever metal it came in contact with. So like that was the cool thing. And he figured out, okay, well, here's every single time that Ultron's shown up, and here's every single way that he's been defeated. And it's just this knockdown, drag out fight with Ultron versus just everyone involved. Like Black Panther shows up and just all the horrid secrets of their past are kind of coming out. Like Black Panther first joined the Avengers just so he could gain knowledge and put up files on them, to see if they were any kind of threat to Wakanda. So and then it's here we are, where bad things are happening. We gotta go.
Even Crypto's scared.
Yeah. So it's absolutely one of the best Avengers stories of all time.
That Kurt Busiek run?
That is the Kurt Busiek run.
Very good.
So the follow-up to that wasn't until a few years later, right? In the Mighty Avengers.
Oh.
This is the Bendis post Civil War thing. Tony Stark's in charge and is putting the team back together. And he had pissed off Wolverine, and Thor wasn't around, and he was like, let's put together the greatest Avengers team of all time. So he's like, let's get Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel. Let's get the Wasp. Let's get Black Widow. Let's get Sentry. Let's get Wonder Man. And he was like, ooh, why don't we get like a Thor Hulk or a Thor Wolverine combo and get Ares, God of War.
I loved Ares.
And it's
loved Ares.
Some of the funniest stuff ever. Yeah. So it's really kind of weird because Ultron comes down, infects the Iron Man Extremis armor, and turns Tony Stark into the Wasp. Yeah. Which there's a real funny scene of him, like, after they win, he goes and checks.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, everything's fine.
Yep, we're good.
Yep, okay, cool. That was weird. No one...
Yep.
Yeah. So it's really neat seeing the team work together and their thoughts of like man, I'm way better than her. Whoa. Okay. Maybe I'm not. Or man, don't hit me. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Ow. Little things like that.
Yeah.
And seeing Ares, who doesn't get it, kind of school the team on, listen, you guys are fighting this all wrong. You need to infect his being. And like, what the hell do you mean infect his being? Oh, give the robot a virus. Got it. Yeah. I was like, yes, let's do that.
That's what I said the first time.
Yeah. So it's just marvelous. So yeah, first trade of that.
Very good.
Go check it out.
I wanted to talk a little bit about
Jesus Christ. No.
Oh, that's every day, sir.
Oh. Go ahead.
To talk about Secret Wars, since I know of your love of the FF.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Secret Wars had been building for many a moon because Jonathan Hickman can't tell miniseries.
No.
No. The world building is vast and almost infinite. Once they get through probably about, 20, 25 issues of Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally lead up to Secret Wars, where the multiverse is like converging in each other, and existence itself is about to be gone. The Beyonders' schemes are about to bear fruit, and it's Doctor Strange and Victor Von Doom standing on the precipice at the end of existence. And they kill the Beyonders, and they get imbued with their powers.
Mm-hmm.
And they essentially remake existence. And Steven says something in the book where he's like, I was right there with the powers of God, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, he flinched.
I could not handle it.
Yeah.
But Victor could. Because Doom has the arrogance and the ego to play God. And as Steven says, he plays God very, very well. And I know there were a lot of people that were really kind of dumping on Stephen Strange, but really, he's the adult.
Yeah.
In this entire book, he's the guy who has the humility to stand up and admit, look, this was it. It was all over if we don't do this. And I know you guys don't want to admit it, but Victor saved all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we did what we needed to do to remake reality so that there was actually a universe to come back to and inhabit it all. And of course, it wasn't perfect. It ended up becoming Battleworld because it's remade in the image of Doom. But Steven is just, we're here to maintain order in all of its flawed reality. And I understand your position, but we did what needed to be done. And of course, Reed Richards can't handle that.
Yeah.
Just absolutely can't handle that. And there's a scene with the Reed Richards and a few other heroes where Doom discovers their presence on the planet.
Yes.
And he's about ready to wipe them out of existence. And Steven ports them away to someplace that Doom can't find them. And he's, Steven, bring them back. I'm not playing with you. I said, Victor, I'm not going to do it. I will not let you kill them. And of course, Doom, being Doom that he is, continues to try to intimidate Steven, and he just kind of laughs at him and says, even now, you're still afraid of Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Even though you are God incarnate, you still are afraid of him. And then he kind of has like a sly little smirk and says, and you should be. And then Doom goes, bam.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I remember putting that down like, oh, oh my God, this is so good.
Well, yeah, and there were the few little fights leading up to it where like Cyclops was like, don't worry, guys. I got this. I got this Dark Phoenix egg.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh, what's that? It's hatching? Come on, bring it. and then he gets imbued with like the total Phoenix powers. And it was like, oh, here I come, and Doom's like, no, never mind, you're done.
And the scene in the earlier issues with Captain Britain, who lost a judgment between Mr. Sinister and ends up having to go over the wall with like the mutant zombie symbiote monsters, and he just grabs a couple of weapons, says adios, and just jumps into the fray. I'm like, that's just so boss.
There's so many great things that came out from that, and I'm going to use this as a segue into my favorite thing that came out of Secret Wars. My favorite thing that came out in 2015.
Okay.
Is Weird World. It's the thing that I ordered the least of initially.
And you ended up loving the most.
I ended up ordering more of this comic than any other comic that year.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because it's so good. It's Jason Aaron. Again, just one of those names that you're just not going to stop hearing about.
I mean, the guy, he's only whiffed a couple of times.
Yeah. I guarantee you this is why he has Conan right now. So it's Archon, who is this character that every time he's shown up, I've made sure to not buy any more of those comics. Hate that guy. He's just worthless. I hate him. I don't hate many characters.
But Archon,
oh my God,
you're the worst.
I'd read a Gambit comic before an Archon comic.
And that's on film.
Yeah. So Archon is in charge of like his own kingdom.
Yeah.
But he gets thrown into Weird World, which is, kind of it was established as this Lord of the Rings type of world inside the Marvel Universe that had been kind of transformed into like a, I don't know, it's like a super sci-fi place. Like he starts running from the wild apes of Atlantis, or the aquatic apes of Atlantis. Yeah. He's trying to map out Weird World so he knows where to go.
Yeah.
And he's trying to find his way out so he can get back to his kingdom.
Yeah.
And it keeps changing. And like halfway through he realizes that Man-Thing's after him. But Man-Thing also doesn't like those aquatic apes.
Okay.
So he's teaming up with Man-Thing so Man-Thing will take care of those guys and not kill him. Then he runs into like some of the old Crystal Warriors from like the 80s. And they end up with this big bag of rocks. They're like, my prince! Here he is! He's like, that's a bag of rocks. He's like, no, it's my prince!
The artist formerly known as Prince.
It is so crazy. I love it so much. So yeah, if ever you're looking for just one of the greatest, craziest Marvel stories, like it's told in such a serious fashion, but all the crazy stuff is happening. Like it's him versus Morgan Le Fay. Like it's like the most Conan thing ever without Conan even being there.
Right.
It's so good.
And that's the same creative team that's back on Thor now.
Yes.
And Thori. I love Thori so much.
Oh my God. Yeah. Murder. Thor's dog is the greatest.
Thor's daughter is great.
So
speaking of pets.
Yeah, we'll do that, and then I will end it on this one.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So Power Girl has her cat.
Yeah.
Superman has Krypto.
Yep.
Batman has Ace the Bat Hound.
Right.
Wonder Woman has Kanga.
Uh-huh.
And
which is weird.
Yeah. I mean, Tom King brought that back up.
Yeah, he did.
There's your Tom King sighting for today. But X-23 has a Wolverine.
Yeah, but it's how she got the Wolverine.
It's how she got the Wolverine that's fun. So Squirrel Girl one day just kind of randomly shows up at X-23's apartment and says, here you go. Here's a Wolverine. Jonathan the Wolverine. And says, talk to it.
Yeah, like, yeah, here's the Wolverine. His name is Jonathan. And she's like, what? Yeah.
It's like, talk to it. It's like, I don't talk to Wolverines. And
she says, well, sure, it's easy. Just start talking. And she's, no, I don't understand what they'll say back. And she says, oh.
Well, okay, Jonathan, your job's done. Go away.
Yeah.
And of course, little Gabby, the honey badger who's living with her, is like, I love him. I'm going to dress him up in suits and make little cardboard cutout cities so he can tear down in his fun little suits.
Yeah. And then they end up walking him, and like it becomes Gabby's pet.
And during that same issue, Squirrel Girl enlists them in the most important of tasks. So X-23 is like, I don't know what's going on right now, but okay, we're going to do this thing. And they end up going to this little boy's house. And what ended up being the crime was this little boy had kidnapped a squirrel. She opens the box and says, oh my God, this is what you called me for. And the squirrel jumps out and is like, free! And Squirrel Girl is just so happy. It's like, I'm so glad I found you.
Yeah.
And you could see that Laura is definitely questioning her choice of friends at this point.
Yeah. No, it's written by Tom Taylor, which is another one of those names that you're going to start hearing a lot more about. He's about to do the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man book that's coming out this week, which I'll talk more about on Nerdstrom, which it's anything Tom Taylor is writing, I'm gonna latch on to.
There's a really great scene at the end where Laura's been having this recurring dream of her father leaving her. And just kind of the trauma of coping with that. And Gabby kind of felt that same way when Laura went off to go do her super important mission with Squirrel Girl. And Laura comes back and, Gabby's got a little tear in her eye. And she said, look, we're a family. This is your home, and I'm not ever going to leave you. And just that happy little smile was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a touching way to end a silly issue.
So,
but speaking of touching issues,
which I've been waiting for us to do this back issue special for a while. I brought up my own personal copy of this.
Okay.
So, this is considered the best issue of Spider-Man. Like, I'd put it right above 801, which just came out, the Dan Slott issue.
Yeah.
This to me is like the most touching issue of Spider-Man. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 248. It's a wrecking crew story for the first half.
Okay.
Just him, fighting the bad guys, doing what Spider-Man does.
Yep.
And then the other half sets up the story of this kid who is collecting everything Spider-Man, which back then, there wasn't the concept of there's Spider-Man shirts and socks and so
all the collectibles.
Yeah, so back then collecting Spider-Man stuff would be like finding newspaper articles, because there was no internet. Like, he would go to like the crime scenes and dig out bullets out of the wall and find like here's the dust from some webbing. Hey, here's some of his costume that got torn off in the thing. Like, this kid was obsessed with Spider-Man. And they're writing a story on him. As Peter's interacting with this kid, it's telling more about the kid. And the kid's like, man, it's crazy. How do you make those webs? Like, I've looked into some footage and all this stuff. I think that it's a mechanical thing. And Spider-Man does you're right, it is. And, all this other stuff. And he starts asking more personal questions like, hey, how do all the pictures get taken? How does all this stuff happen? And then finally he says, Spider-Man, can you tell me who you are underneath the mask? And Spider-Man was like getting ready to leave, and he stops, and he turns around and looks at the kid, and he takes off his mask. He says, the reason that I get all those pictures is because I'm Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man. And the kid's just like, wow. So he puts on the mask, and Spider-Man swings away, and there's just something to the way that he's going away that you see. Man, he's just not doing well, and he lands on the edge of this wall, and it reveals that he's at this cancer clinic, and it says that the boy that he's visiting just has weeks to live. So, yeah. So, pretty heavy stuff, right?
And we had kind of a similar superhero school.
Yeah.
That.
So this goes into, man, heavy stuff already.
Yeah, I know, right?
Probably my favorite thing that we've got to do here at the store ever. We got in contact with a group asking us to come to the Toby Keith Foundation, the OK Kids Corral.
Yeah.
They told us that they needed a Spider-Man. That they didn't know anyone that had a Spider-Man suit, and that if we knew anyone who was good with kids and who was, who could be Spider-Man. And I was like, David, the kid that's working for me right now, is David. He's phenomenal. He's a trained actor. He works with kids all the time. He like, this is your dude. They said, okay, well, we have this kid who loves Spider-Man. Like, he, everything in his life, he talks about Spider-Man. Like, he has Spider-Man shoes, he has Spider-Man shirt. Like, everything is Spider-Man. They're like, okay, cool. We get it. He's a big Spider-Man fan. They're like, you don't get it. This kid was on, like, so much chemotherapy, so much medication that, like, he started losing his hearing, losing his sight, and he could really barely move. And they had this Christmas program going where, all the kids met Santa, and, this kid got placed in, the guy who was playing Santa's lap, and he says, well, what do you want for Christmas? He says, I want to meet Spider-Man. I want to meet Spider-Man before I die. Which, whoo.
Man.
Yeah. So at the time, like, he was essentially blind, couldn't hear, and like, just, barely holding on. And they said, okay, well, tell you what, in a couple weeks, we're going to have this party. And Spider-Man's going to be there, and he wants to meet you. He told me that he wants to meet you. So, let me get a drink of water.
Okay. Take 4.
So he, we get everything set up, and we get told, hey, this is going to be the kid.
Yeah.
Make sure that your Spider-Man is here and ready for this. So we go up there, and I'm bringing comics to just give out to everyone, because this is a party for everyone, because it's not a party just for the kids that are sick. It's a party for, like, the, siblings, because, like, a lot of the times when the kids that are sick, like, they get all the cool stuff, and then the kids that are well, like, start to resent the sick kids because they're getting it. But this has made sure that everyone has just the most amazing time that they possibly can. So we made sure that we brought that.
Okay.
Just everyone there was just on their game. So the time comes, and the kid comes in, and everything involved with him was Spider-Man. His shoes, his socks, his jeans had Spider-Man, like, written on it. He had a shirt. His Spider-Man wallet was a Superman wallet that, it had the S on it, and then someone wrote Spider-Man behind the S. Like, it was, like, Spider-Man was his deal.
Yeah.
And, there were bruises under his eyes from the medication. Like, this kid was just going through so much. So, Spider-Man jumps out and says hi, and it's, very loud in the place, and he's having a hard time hearing him, and he's freaking out. So our Spider-Man looks at me, and he says, what do I do? I said, well, talk to one of the people in charge over there about, seeing if you can get a quieter room.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there were visitation rooms, that kind of thing. He said, well, how do I get over there? I said, well, be Spider-Man. So David hops on my back, jumps off of that, lands on a couch, jumps over a table, and lands right in front of one of the nurses and says, I'm Spider-Man, and I need a room for us to visit.
Yeah.
And, like, oh, man. He was beaming. Oh, my God. So excited. So Spider-Man crawls back over and says, all right, man, they're going to take care of us. Let's go read this comic. And he pulls up a Spider-Man comic. It's like Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Yeah.
Right? So he goes off, and he spends 45 minutes with this kid reading him this comic book and explaining everything there is to know about Spider-Man. Right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, the kid has kind of worn himself out. Like, this was just everything to him. So he leaves, and then, like, we just, do our thing.
Yep.
I get a call a couple days later, and he had died. So he had willed himself to see again, hear again, and, like, just
to see Spider-Man.
Yeah, just so he could meet Spider-Man.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, David gets the star of the year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so far, Star of a Lifetime, like, it's never been that cool since. So,
yeah.
So, I think we'll leave you there on that note.
On that happy note.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you all next time.
Peace.